Hello there and welcome to episode 10 of the TS News Show, the question and answers video. I let you guys ask me a bunch of questions and now it's time for me to answer them all. Let's jump right in. So the first question I have to answer is, what is my favourite airliner? This is actually a really hard question for me to answer, because I haven't actually flown on many airliners or even many planes, to be honest. I've only flown on about 3 planes on my entire lifetime, and even then, it's been such a long time since I've actually flown on a plane. The most recent place I've gone on a plane was Grenada, and that was 3 years ago, just to give you some reference. And now you can see why I find this question to be very hard to answer, though I will at least say my favourite airliner overall is British Airways, but I also do like Lufthansa as well. If you're curious regards to liveries, I will say the same thing. British Airways is my personal preference there. I do really like the current British Airways livery that they use on their planes today. The video footage that you're seeing here is some that I recorded when I went to film at Heathrow sometime in 2012, I think. And Heathrow is one of the worst spots to film a plane ever because there's so much fencing everywhere. I highly discourage you from filming there, even though they try and claim that they have a nice area to film, which is near the North Perimeter Road. It's really awkward to film there. That's where I was pretty much, but it was a really awkward place to film. Why isn't the world made out of cheese? From my past experiences with different types of cheese, I don't believe the density of cheese is strong enough to support the weight of the foundation of a house, leave alone a single house. And I think what would basically happen is everything would slowly sink towards the core of the earth. And assuming the core of the earth was also made out of cheese, I think it would melt and go off very quickly. So you should be very grateful for the fact that Earth isn't made out of cheese. Though if you really do want to go find some cheese somewhere in our solar system, if you pay NASA a few £100 million, I think they'll take you to the moon and you should be able to retrieve some and take it back as a souvenir. The same person also asks, can I get pregnant on the first date? Yes, you can. I highly recommend, if you want to avoid getting a pregnancy, you take one of these. With that being said, condoms are bleeding expensive these days. I kind of find it very funny, they want us to be protected, however they also want us to spend many pounds. I'd rather get Tesco's own brand condoms, and that just gives me a really bad taste in my mouth. When I wee, it burns. Is this normal? Have you tried turning it off and on again? Actually, to be serious, that sounds like an infection. You might want to go get that checked ASAP. That's what I recommend to you. Do you feel that time travel is possible, and does Einstein's theory of spatial relativity help prove this? This is actually a really tough question to me, because when you think about it, time is just a perception that us humans have created. It's not something that has always existed for even before humans were created. As a species, we have conducted experiments in regards to time going faster and slower in different kinds of aspects, like time dilation, for example, and to a latter extent, there have been pseudo forms of time travel. For example, Concorde, in some cases, if you actually flew at a certain time, flying from London to New York, you would actually arrive 2 hours before you technically left. Well, I wouldn't say that's time travel. That's just because you're just passing through different kinds of time zones. I'm actually the kind of person who thinks that it'd be more likely for us to conquer dimensional travel, if there are even more than one dimensions to conquer or to even look at, than time travel. Because I have this mindset where every time you make a decision, a new dimension is created where you, instead of taking the decision you took the other decision, and so on and so on. It continues for your entire life until you obviously haven't made any more decisions and you die. That would mean that somewhere in another dimension there is somebody like me, only the complete opposite. And he's also doing a Train Sim news show while speaking over old archive footage that he forgot to put up on YouTube because he was lazy. So no, I don't think that time travel, at least currently now, is possible, but I do believe that dimensional travel is somewhat possible. As long as we don't encounter any awkward paradoxes, I think everything should be fine. Though with that being said, if time travel was possible, I would actually go back to the year 1958. Why? I would actually find a man called Dr. Beeching. Then I would give him the materials and specifications to invent something called the iPhone. And by doing that, he wouldn't pass the Beeching Axe. And which would also mean that our railways in the United Kingdom wouldn't have been screwed over. I mean, they are currently being screwed over now, but less screwed over, I guess you could say. What would it take for you to stop your moaning at... Okay, I can clearly tell this person doesn't like the news show. Okay, I think I need to educate you a tiny bit and state that the purpose of the news show is to provide infotainment, which is basically informative entertainment. The news show contains information, news, opinions, discussions, etc, etc. If you don't like what you are seeing, I'm not going to tell you, oh, if you don't like it, don't watch it. No, I'm going to say, if you don't like it, tell me why. Otherwise, I don't know. Instead of just making really odd and unfunny troll-like comments, tell me up front what you don't like. Give me criticism. Otherwise, I don't know how I can improve. I cannot put it any simpler than that. If you're going to tell me, oh, I don't like the news show because I don't like you, well, that's a bit of a fallacy there. That doesn't really work. There are also other contributing things that I won't change, such as, for example, the still that I use, which is not really much of a big problem anyway. I don't see why you would say, oh, I don't like the news show because I don't like the still that you use. If it bugs you so much, you can listen to it like a radio show. I mean, you can listen to this like a radio show if you want. I mean, if anyone wants, I can actually provide an MP3 of this in the description. But that's pretty much it. I'm open to all forms of criticism, however, I won't end up changing the show so much that it's pretty much for you, the viewers, more so it's for me, myself. That's pretty much where I draw the line. Also, I'll stop moaning about Train Simulator and other train sim matters when the game becomes good and when it's completely fixed, okay? Good. Okay, my best friend here wants me to do the Monty Python joke sequence, so I might as well go ahead and do that right now.
What is your name?
My name is Daniel.
What is your quest?
I seek an unusual towering pillar of hats.
What is your favorite color?
Well, joking aside, it is actually blue. I have always liked the colour blue since I was a young kid, possibly because most of the trains that I used to travel on had the Network Southeast moquettes on the seats, and I really like the design, so that's probably one contributing factor to that. I also like the colour silver because when I was younger I had this Crayola metallic pen that you could colour things in, and it would also make them not just grey but shiny, and I really liked that. How did I get into Railworks? Oh boy. I started out playing Railworks in its first original version, Rail Simulator, all the way back in 2008. Or maybe was it 2009, I can't remember, but I got it for Christmas. And it was awful! Oh, the game was so bad. I mentioned this in my Skype call video about the route that I'm building, but I had no fun with it whatsoever. The loading times were awful. I didn't even know how to install a train from UK Train Sim, so I pretty much had a default installation. I gave up on it very quickly and I just went back to MSTS. However, when I got my first laptop, which happened to be a Dell Latitude 420, yeah, go on, make your MLG joke. You managed to pick up Steam and Railworks Free. I think I still have the first image that I took when I was playing Railworks Free on my old laptop. If I have it, I'll show it on the visuals here, but you can probably tell that it wasn't a very good laptop by looking at this image. I then got a new laptop in 2012 for Christmas, which was the Sony Vaio, which I managed to increase the frame rate, which was nice, all the way to 20 frames per second! But other than that, that's pretty much how I got into Railworks. What is my favourite route on Railworks? I'm going to be a really selfish person and say that my favourite route on Railworks is my own route. And that's because that's pretty much the only route I really drive on these days. Any other routes that I drive on are routes that I'm looking at for reviews and stuff. So I think that's the only thing I'll really say to that. Do I still make Sparta remixes? No! No, 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 no! Oh god, I hope I don't. I will at least give Sparta remixes credits. They were the thing that actually got me started up on YouTube, because that's pretty much what I made for the first 2 to 3 years on my channel. The occasional YTPMV, but other than that, no, I don't make Sparta remixes anymore. I find them really old and boring. With the exception of a few, I just don't find Sparta remixes that entertaining anymore. I do not have anything against people making them, though I will say I stay away from the community just because of how many young kids there are, and just of how ridiculous the community has gotten over the years. It's really shocking. How or why did I first get an interest into trains? I think the main contributing factor to that was the fact that we used to go on trains a lot when I was younger. One of the first trains I can remember going on was the Class 455 in Network Southeast because they were just changing it over because the railways were just privatised when I was really young. I also remember going on the 1973 stop from Hatton Cross a lot because when we used to live in Feltham, Hatton Cross wasn't really that far away, and we always used to go into London a lot. I also remember going on a class 319, and my mum told us that I actually went to Birmingham with her to do shopping because we used to go there a lot, but I can't remember anything about Birmingham when I was younger. And I don't even remember what train I even went on. I'm assuming a Class 87 with a Mark III coach stop, though I'm not going to place any bets. Once time travel is invented, I will go and research this information and report back to you as soon as possible. What do I want to do when I'm older, and why? Well, to be honest, the first idea that I have for what I want to do when I'm older is becoming a train driver. Specifically, I want to drive on the Chiltern Main Line because I absolutely love the trains on the Chiltern Main Line. They are so comfortable. The line speeds are really good, and it just seems like a railway that I'd love to drive on. Though I'm a bit nervous becoming a train driver because I haven't had any work experience. I tried getting some, but when I was in year 10, they didn't really organise it properly for me, and instead I'd had to spend the entire work experience week just sitting in our media room at school just editing school sports film, which was something, but not really fun overall, to be honest. The second idea that I have is that I'd actually want to become an animator. I've always had a passion for animation from since when I was younger, because I always used to watch animated programs on television. Some examples, I can't really think of them off the top of my head, but I used to watch things like Bagpuss, Paddington Bear, Fireman Sam, Bob the Builder. I just loved watching animated programs when I was younger, and I even made an animation quite recently called The Vicious Cycle of Bedroom Toys, a stop motion animation, and I really want to make some more in the future. In fact, I'm going to probably spend some time over the summer holidays trying to get myself a drawing tablet, and I want to get myself some animation software like Toon Boom or Anime Studio something or other. Then I want to start making animation because I have so many ideas and I want to just put them into existence. So I'm really excited to try something like that. What are my thoughts on the proposed expansion of Heathrow Airport? To be honest, I don't think they really need to expand Heathrow Airport, or I've got a better question. Where to expand it? There isn't actually much space around the Heathrow Airport area. Heathrow is already kind of compact as it is, and trying to make an expansion I have a feeling will just make the area more congested than it is and won't really benefit it much in the long run, because they even said that the expansion will only be satisfactory until about 2035, so it's not even half a century. And what's to say they're going to try and make another runway, and another one, and another one, and another one. It's just going to turn into a complete mess. I feel it would be more beneficial to expand another airport like Stansted, Luton, or hell, even Gatwick, because there's at least more space there than there is at Heathrow. What other kinds of videos do you plan on doing on your channel? Whilst I'm pretty occupied with the news show and I'm really enjoying making it so far, I've always had a few other plans on making a few other videos over the past few months or even for the rest of this year. For example, I want to try and make an MLG parody because I find them so bad that they're good. I had a plan to make MLG Train Sim, and I had a few jokes like the loading screens and making fun of the Class 90 and 321 because everybody likes them for some reason. I also want to get into making the animation like I mentioned earlier. Making a few animations will definitely occupy my time. And if I can't make an animation with stop motion, I want to try and make a keyframe animation and remake one of my old videos. I actually want to remake an old video I made back in the day called the MD-11 versus Rainbow Dash, and dear lord, that video is so cringeworthy. It's just keyframing Vegas at its worst. So that's an idea of what I want to do maybe later on in the year. I have no idea so far. When will my route be finished?
I don't know.
What do you think is the worst official route on Train Sim? By official, I think this person means on Steam, not on anywhere else. So that's easy, the Glasgow Airport Rail Link. You pay 25 quid for a route that's really short and really linear, and like I said, you see the default HST in Glasgow? No thanks. You have barely anything to do, and the scenery is quote-unquote biased to the driver's view. Basically, the scenery is rubbish. Do not buy that route under any circumstances. Not even in a sale. Just download it. In fact, screw it. Don't even pirate it. It's not even worth your time to pirate. What made me start making videos on YouTube? Well, I first started making videos in general back in 2009 when I first got Vegas Pro for the first time, and I was really happy with it. And obviously I got into the Sparta remix craze, and I don't make Sparta remixes anymore. And I spoke to my, at the time, then girlfriend, I think, and she said, hey, it would be a good idea if you made a YouTube channel. So I did, and within the first day I started uploading videos, and I showed them off to my tutor group to see what they thought about it, and my tutor room teacher was even impressed by the fact they said, wow, you have 800 channel views already? Wow, that's impressive. And look at me now, 1,500 subscribers, 2 million total views on my channel. Do I really care? Not really, to be honest. It's the comments that matter most to me. What is my opinion on feminism? This is the most controversial question that I got out of all the questions I have to answer here today. And I'm going to be honest here, I was actually planning to make a huge, long reply to this, explaining why I support it. However, instead, I'm just going to link you guys to a really good video by Libertarian Socialist Rants explaining about why he supports feminism, and pretty much everything that he says there is what I agree with. Yes, I support feminism, and don't you dare get into the mindset of thinking, oh no, he supports feminism, that means the feminazis want to take over. No, you've got it all wrong. The feminazis on Tumblr are, in fact, just read that out to yourself. The feminazis on Tumblr. Tumblr is not a serious place, and is certainly not a place where you should be getting information about a very important situation that should be covered in our society. And it is actually vital to the society that I wish to live in. What do you consider the worst add-on ever made for Train Sim? Not just limited to Steam, of every add-on that you have come across from all corners of the community that you could think of, free or payware. This question is much harder to answer than you think, because by definition it's the workshop routes, you know, the ones that I reviewed in episode 8, especially like the Equiton line. Yeah, they are the worst, but it's kind of a cop-out just for me to use those and say, okay, there's your answer, let's run away and answer the next question. No, if you were to ask me, out of every single add-on that I've tried on Railworks, every single freeway route that I've looked at, every single add-on I've seen, I think that the worst add-on ever created for Train Sim to the date of me making this video is the Armstrong Powerhouse DBSO. I've made jokes about this add-on in the past, but to be honest, it fully well deserves this spot as being, in my opinion, the worst add-on of Train Sim ever. At least to the date of me making this video, because something could be introduced that is worse. My main criticism was the fact that back in the day, the DBSO was originally created in real life to prevent needing to reverse the loco around. The train pretty much runs in a push-pull formation. This speeded up journey times and train dwelling times and other factors as well. The DBSO is still used in service today, usually by Network Rail, I think, if I can remember. Yeah, Network Rail use them more. So, if you take away the DBSO's ability to drive, it serves no purpose. The DBSO that the Armstrong Powerhouse are selling cannot drive, effectively making it worse than useless, dead weight, as you could say. And they're selling it for $4.99. And the comment that you're seeing up there shows that Richard said pretty much that if he was going to add a cab and make it, you know, usable, it would double the price. How could anybody think this is acceptable? This is the most disgusting thing I have ever seen on Train Sim. You can tell me all day about, oh, it's a business, my business strategies, my capitalism. You can tell me that all day, but I'm not going to buy it. There's capitalism, and then there's EA, and then there's this. Okay? Not even EA goes this low, Richard. I personally believe that the DBSO should be removed from sale as soon as possible until a cab is provided. And if it turns out the price is buffed to $11.99 or even 10 quid, or hell, even remains the same, you can kind of guess who's going to be ranting about it. I'll give you a clue starting with me! What's your opinion on the genre of anime, and do you have a personal favourite? To be fair, I never really watched anime that much when I was younger. It was all those stop-motion programs I mentioned earlier that I used to watch. I do remember watching the old Pokemon series, so I guess you could say that. But overall, in general, yeah, I don't mind anime. I don't watch it that frequently, but if I had nothing to do for the next 12 hours except watching an anime, I'd do that. That being said, there are a few animes I have no interest in. I'm sorry, I have no interest in things like One Piece or Dragon Ball GT. In my opinion, everybody in Dragon Ball is just overpowered. But then if that was the case, nobody on Dragon Ball would be overpowered. What are my most favourite Pokemon and least favourite Pokemon? I've been playing Pokemon for a long time, since I was about 8 years old, so I do have a fair amount of knowledge in Pokemon, to say the least, and I do like a lot of them. Some Pokemon that I really like include Keldeo, Kyurem, the Evolutions, Latios, but the one that I like the most is the one that sits on my lap throughout the news show. You know, Vaporeon. I even mentioned him in episode 3. I love Vaporeon so much, I actually have 2. I have the male, which is named Temsport, and a female named Tilbury, and they're both really annoying to deal with if you don't know how to deal with a Vaporeon. But my least favourite Pokemon is possibly Charizard, and I had no interest in it when I was younger, and it just looks like a generic flying dragon. I'm sorry. What do you think about Danish Trains? Woo! Denmark! I've never been to Denmark before. I've never been on a Danish train. The only Danish train I can think off the top of my head is called the IC3, and it looks like a biscuit tin on wheels, to be honest. So I really can't answer that one that well, so I'm sorry about that. But I will say I do like the design on a few of their trains. What do you think about League of Legends? Sorry, I have no interest in League of Legends or any other MOBA game like that, or Dota 2, or... Damn, I don't even know any names of any other games like that. That's how knowledgeable I am in those kinds of games. I'm sorry. Do you prefer freight trains or passenger trains? I personally prefer passenger trains because those are the trains I used to see a lot when I was younger. I barely saw any freight trains when I was younger. In fact, the only times I'd really see a freight train is when I went to go to Bournemouth, and I'd see trains at Southampton occasionally. Why don't I like American Traction? To me, American Traction doesn't really have that much character or design to it. They all look very similar. Not the same, all very similar to the point where they personally do feel the same. Though, to be fair, we haven't got that much room to talk, especially back here with Bombardier and the Electrostars. In fact, when you think about it, I think Bombardier's design department is formed of a photocopier and a man to turn on and off the photocopier during shifts. What's my opinion on virtual railroads? Virtual railroads are a dev that create content for trains, and mainly for the German side of the community, you could say that. I don't really have too much of an opinion on them, mainly due to the fact that I don't drive German trains as much as UK trains. I will at least say I do like some of the things they have made. I do love how everybody say, oh, Youngstrom Powerhouse are amazing because they did wheel slip animation and WSP activity. Yeah, Virtual Railroads did it first, and I think they beat them by a year, from what I can remember. So yeah, I think they're alright, not really too bad. Now the next question that I have here, the person asked what is my favourite steam train. However, I'm going to expand that to all types of trains, so I'm going to split it up into sections, since it makes more sense to do so. So we're going to have favourite steam train, favourite diesel locomotive, favourite electric locomotive, favourite diesel multiple unit, favourite diesel electric multiple unit, favourite electric multiple unit, and finally favourite light rail vehicle. Now, sitting around thinking about it, my favourite steam locomotive happens to be the Southern Region Light Pacifics, you know, the West Country and Battle of Britain classes. I really like the design of these locomotives, and it was the first steam locomotive I ever saw. I had the chance to actually look inside the cab, but I said no because it was too hot. My favourite diesel locomotive is the Class 68. I like the way it sounds, I like the design, and I like its performance. However, if someone comes up to me and tells me to pick one which is a British-built locomotive, I'll say the Class 33. My favourite diesel multiple unit is the Class 172, and that's mainly because of how it sounds. Just listen to this. I could genuinely listen to that all day. It's one of the few trains I'd actually like to drive on Train Sim, though I doubt that day will ever come. My favourite diesel electric multiple unit? Well, you gotta love me some thumpers. Whee! My favourite electric multiple unit is possibly the Class 309 or 312. Yeah, I really do like those old AC slam door units. I used to drive them a lot in the days of MSTS. My favourite light rail vehicle is actually the Docklands Light Railway stock, the B07, I think that's what they call them. I really like the way it sounds, I like the way it looks. and I don't care that it's driverless. If it was for train sim, I'd drive it. If you are wondering about my least favourite train, just type in Google Class 387, and that's pretty much all you need to know. What do you think is the most urgent thing Dovetail need to fix in Train Simulator? Good question, but it requires a really simple answer. DirectX 11. A game released in this day and age with no DirectX 11 is inexcusable and is absolutely unacceptable. And the last question of the day is, which one do I prefer, steam, diesel, or electric? That's easy, electric, because I grew up around electric trains. Well, that's all the questions for today. Thank you very much for submitting them. I've had a blast answering them, and if you have any more questions, I may consider making another question and answers video later on in the year, maybe. I'll consider that. Thank you very much for listening, and I shall speak to you next episode. Goodbye.